Here back at it again. We're gonna be doing just a quick, deck profile and meta analysis, if it were. Uh, and yeah, this is just gonna be a real short one. At least we're gonna try to keep it short, talking about some things we added into the extra deck and main deck for our Mermail Atlantean. We did not take it to our most recent locals. Uh, Yeah, we took Ice Barrier, which I don't regret, but and yes, you may have noticed we got a new mic. This mic is colorful and awesome. Anyways, sorry. We took Ice Barrier to the locals and didn't do great. We had a first round matchup with Sarkis, local guy. Shout out to him. On Mermaid Atlantean versus Ice Barrier, which is an interesting matchup. Yeah, I barely won that one, and then the next three I lost. So, that being said, it was because of like kind of a top deck card situation, right? Where a lot of times the reason why I lost a match was because either my opponent just had one extra card that I didn't, or I lacked a extender, or something along those lines was the real reason why I was losing those games, and that's just how the meta is. So shout out to Barry also. Barry won our most recent OTS championship in the region uh, with Blue Eyes. So Blue Eyes is a legit deck. Raziel's a legit deck. Mouse is a legit deck. Top three decks, I think right now, you're gonna get some variants like Fire King and Mermail Atlantean are gonna be scraping into those top three or those top eight list areas, but the majority is going to be one of those three decks, which makes it relatively easier to prepare for, at least in the like side decking patterns. But main decking, you should try to be covering everything else. So without further ado, let's get into it and see what else we're going to be covering. First off, we are at a clean 40 with this list, and it's no ceiling camp, guys. I know previously I had been exploring this, and I did take it to a regionals, and actually did relatively well with it. Just had some small misplays, and honestly, a lot of the other list wasn't great. But I think this list achieves the same idea and more, as well as copying this, not copying, but taking inspiration from an Orlando list. So, yeah, first off, we are playing the 3 Impulse. I do think Impulse is still great for covering a lot of matchups. I think it's still a very, very solid card. Not great against Raziel, but if you run into Raziel, you just side it out. And even then, it's still good against some of um, their extenders. And then obviously, 3 Imperm. The 3 Imperm still great. Um, yeah, I don't know what else to say about Imperm. Like, it's going to be in your main deck a lot, and then your Ash Blossom as well. Ash should be in your main deck pretty consistently, along with your Imperm. And speaking of main deck consistently, Fulos. Fulos, if you can afford it, should still be in your main deck, especially if you're playing competitively. Uh, yeah, Fulos, Ash, Imperm. Those are the big three. So that's your non-engine for the most part. Now, real quick, I do before I because the rest of it's pretty like standard, right? I want to get into the bricky stuff, the non-engine, right? So you have Rainy Green, Minstrel, one Tactics, one Triana, one Mullen Glacier, one Heavy Infantry, and I'm gonna consider Diva Engine. But so it's these are you might think like, oh my god, we're playing 6 bricks, right? This is kind of just a mandatory, right? Though, so you don't really count that. I mean, because you have to play it, right? At least one. Minstrel, kind of. Ingrain, kind of. So, like, if you think about how this is laid out, Minstrel really isn't that much of a brick as long as you have something to discard it with. Like, you have 6 other cards you can discard in combination with Minstrel. So this is like it's semi brick territory. Adrian, kind of the same situation. Not necessarily a brick, but it's not a starter either. So I'm gonna put it up here. Talents, kind of the same thing. Triana, same thing. Definitely these two for sure. But so you got 4 bricks in here, and really the idea of this list is more so to just reduce the number of times you're bricking as much as possible. Um, and at 40, you're going to see, at least the idea is you're going to see a lot of these cards, right? More often than you are seeing any of these. Because at a clean 40, your ratio is you have a higher count than any of the other non-engine. So we shouldn't be bricking as much this time, right? Because we're maxing out on all the consistency cards essentially, and playing and minimizing the non-consistency cards, right? So that's the idea, to reduce bricking, right? Because that did happen to me this last regional. And then so the engines, right? You're playing the one diva, we're playing the 1-for-1 and the pot. This is pretty standard. Nothing's changing about this. Yeah. This is all just engine stuff, right? So we threw the one Megalo in there and the one Abyss Pike. Now I didn't include Megalo in that list because technically Megalo can get you to like combo an engine as long as you have two other waters. So, I don't know. Megalo is kind of like I might replace this with a call by or something. But for now, Megalo being in there in the main is fine, especially for like cracking boards to search other stuff out, chain block, all that fun stuff. And he has board presence with like a 2400 beat stick. So there's that. And then there's the Poseidra, the Atlantean Dragon, along with my regular secret. It's refocused. Awesome. Okay. Yeah. So that's 3 Neptibus, standard as well. 3 of the Abyss Shrine, also standard, not varying too much there. 3 of our Shadow Squad, also not varying too much there. Your Abyss Teus, very natural, and then your Dragoons as well, right? So nothing out of the ordinary with the rest of the list. You're just essentially trying to maximize your consistency is really all that's going on, right? So that is it for the main. We're at, like I said, we're at a clean 40 in the main right now. We'll be testing this out for the next couple weeks, seeing what the meta holds for us. But yeah, that's our main 40. And then our side deck that we are running is the 1 Virtue Stream, 1 Abyss Team, 1 Call By. I've looked this over, and the list actually main deck the Virtue Stream, but I don't like it because that adds to a brick, especially going first or second. Sorry, makes it harder to break boards, as well as Abyss Team. I think these two are kind of just in the same boat. Abyss Team is great because it helps you draw into your Lancia, and then obviously Call By. I'm probably siding these in every single time for the Fulos, like game 3. And then 3 of your Encore. This is how you survive against Dweller, and then you have a shot at breaking the board. Though I will say, you just because you break the board, it doesn't mean you're winning. You need to kill if you're using Encore, because they can just make Dweller again when you shuffle it back. So that goes there, not in the extra deck. And then speaking of like Lancia stuff, we are maxing out on the shifter hate. So like Lancia, Chaos Hunter. So the point of me running 6 of these is instead of the drawing is because I'd rather affect my opponent than draw into more engine. So like if my opponent shifters me draw phase and I have like Neptibus plus these 2, I'm not gonna even bother putting a body on the board because I know they can't OTK under shifter and this, right? Like if I have Chaos Hunter and they're under shifter, fine. First thing they special summon, I'm gonna put Chaos Hunter out there, and they can't out it. Like I guess if they have Druistorm and they send Druistorm to grave, that's an out for Chaos Hunter, but they'd have to draw it, as well as get the Druistorm on board, which would be impossible if I Chaos Hunter before they Druistorm. And then Lancia, just a solid lineup, I think, siding in against Malice, because they will be side decking Shifter, and I will not lose a Shifter or Flu. After my most recent regional experience. So, and then 3 Pirellia. Now these could be replaced by, this is kind of like the flex spot, right? They are waters. If I do feel like I need to draw more, like for example, If I don't want to play hand traps, like my siding pattern is probably going to be the 3 Pirellia and like side these 6 in, and most likely end up taking. Where'd you go? Most likely end up taking my 3 Impulse out, for like the encores, and then probably stuff like um, my 3 Ash blossoms because the 1 Ash is not going to be enough, and Imperm can act as a board breaker. So that would be the idea, and then like the rest is just drawing into engine, and the rest should be enough. So yeah, that's the idea of the side deck. Let me show you the extra deck real quick here and my decisions and like things you're saving on. So because you're not playing Coelacanth, right? You don't have to play these two, and you're not playing the water statue, right? So these two you're not saving on. So you get to replace 2 extra deck spots, um, and 3 or 4 main decks, right? Is kind of what you're saving out on here. And what this essentially does is it says you're not seeing Abyss Pike, so you're not wasting your normal quite as much. You're not seeing Statue, which isn't a starter, and you're not seeing Coelacanth, which can be a brick. Like I said, it's just an idea, and we are going to be testing this out a little more over the next couple weeks, but that is the idea. Um, doo, 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 doo. And for extra deck, your 1 Glacia, your 1 Anemone, and the 1 King. Um, yeah, standard. You only play 3 links in here. That's all you really need. And then your Synchro 10s, very interesting here because we are playing the uh, Ice Jade, Rain Green, right? So the idea here is that you're taking Chen Ying and Gamir for your matchups against the 2 meta decks. So Gamir, you're gonna make 9 times out of 10 against Malice if you don't see the other banishing cards, because you don't want your opponent to banish your stuff. So it's going to be a little harder to out your stuff if you make Gamir. And then this is against Ryziel, where they can like try to attack, but and they can attack over him sometimes depending on if they make Dugaris. But yeah, it's just tougher to get over Chen Ying with Ryziel. And then the other thing too with Gamir, it's good against Fiendsmith because you can banish the engrave when they use it to like reborn. So there's that. It's got other applications. So and on top of that too, the Chen Ying as well. If you make it turn 1, like as part of your end board, um, like after you hand rip for 2, you can set up a knee shield interaction where after you hand rip for 2, you can have your Neptibus engrave or your Neptibus in hand, and then pitch it off of your Abyss Shrine, draw 1, summon your Poseidra back, and then you get a bounce, a pop, a draw, and essentially a double banish with Chen Ying, right? So like 5 interruptions off of essentially 2 cards. Excuse me. Ugh. So that is a play I may start looking more to emphasize or make. And I can show you the line for that later. So then we're also playing our 1 Poseidra, our 1 Abyssrite, our 1 Gaios. Pretty standard lineup here. Don't really need to play more than 1 of each, I found. So, yeah. Good stuff there. Really awesome. And then we're playing the double Hamet, double Toad. And yes, they are all QCR. Shiny boys. Something to note about that though, like even though we're not playing Coelacanth, the reason why we're playing double is because you can still make double Toad and double Shark. It just depends on the hand you have, right? Like if you have all gas, like yeah, you can still make double. Like you can reborn twice and just get a bunch of level 4s. Like it's not impossible. Like your standard combo gets 1 out regardless, right? So if you want to go for the double Toad line, or you want to end up with like game 3, if you want to just instead go Toad and then make Lavirtue afterwards, that's totally an option. And that leads us to our next 3, which is Dweller, which might get banned, honestly. Very possible. Sad. My QCR is going to be crying. But yeah, Dweller might get banned. Stealth Kraken might get banned. Virtue Dragon. Oh, sorry. These two not going to get banned. This might get banned. But yeah, Stealth Kraken and the Virtue are big chillin'. Yeah. So that's the extra deck. And that's going to be it for the deck profile, guys. So let me know what you think. And we're going to be trying this at locals, posting some locals matches, and yeah, see where it takes us. So thanks, guys, for tuning in, and show me out. Until next time.